What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez. And first of all, thanks again. As the Jets head into a bye halfway through the season, thank you to everybody who has helped me grow this channel here at Jets Latest, my day one regulars. If you want to become a regular, you got to subscribe, use that button, tell a friend to tell a friend. And also, if you want to become a Jets Latest insider, you can hit on that join button, get exclusive content, all sorts of other perks. But let's get into it. We're at the halfway point here of the year, and there's been a lot of downs. We started 0-7, then that big win against Cincinnati. And I think what I want to talk about here is, the offensive line is still the right way to build around, and the offensive line has been really good. I mean, I remember coming into this season saying, I think we were going to have a top 3, top 5 kind of run game. And so far, that has absolutely happened. And I will just keep on going back to, I always said like the top 8 rushing teams found the playoffs, 6 of the top 7 rushing teams found the playoffs, and how that is a formula that can work in the style that Aaron Glenn wants to play. Look at how good the run game has been. All right. The Jets brand of football, it has worked. I mean, second in the NFL in rushing yards, second in the NFL in yards per carry, the most explosive runs in the NFL as an offense, the most yards before contact. Justin Fields leads among quarterbacks, in terms of rushing yards. This has been working. We have been eviscerated by, turnovers still in many of these games. Our -9 turnover margin is still the worst in the NFL. And we had 5 one-score losses, right? I saw something recently, this idea of if every one-score game went the other result because kind of averaging to the mean there, regressing to the mean, that the Jets would be 5-2, right? Like, I don't think that's the case. I don't think they are a good team, but they are building something the right way. And I think that is absolutely important. I think that's going to be the case for Breece Hall, maybe for Braylon Allen, maybe for Isaiah Davis, maybe for Justin Fields, whoever it is, right? But that formula is working. And, I know when Aaron Glenn said, you got to learn to not lose before you win. This is, I think, part of the process. We are going to start to win games like this if we take the longer view on it. That offensive line also last week in our first win protected Justin Fields in a different way. Listen, Membu and Fashanu, the tackles, 37 blocking snaps each, 0 pressures allowed. Tippmann, an 88.3 PFF grade. He was the top guard. Myers was the second best center in PFF rating, right? So we have that offensive line, which we always talked about on Jets Late as being kind of like stabilizing the floor of the Jets. It can't be that bad. And it was that bad, I think, still because of penalties and turnovers and bad bounces of the ball, right? Like, no, we're not great. But I do think that needs to be recognized. And also, we did change some things coaching. Okay, we had more quarterback runs. You see the 11 Fields had last week was the most since week 1. More play action than we have had by a long shot, and so maybe it will get better. That's what I want to tell people, right? And maybe we should give this a little bit of time. And as we adjust after the bye week, we don't have a game this week. We don't play again until at home against the Cleveland Browns, a game that the Jets might actually be favored in, right? Let's see what happens if it evolves after the bye. If there is more play action, if there is more screens, if there is more quarterback runs, time to throw, if we can lead with this run game a little bit more. I've been talking about the improvement on the defense, the improvement in the young talent, right? But speaking of young talent, as we come back here and debrief after the first half of the season, I think it's fair to say that maybe we have the right coach still in front office and brain trust, but we don't know about the quarterback position, right? And so for everybody, in a week where there will be no Jets game, I wanted to take this time to talk about the guys playing on Saturdays. Everybody's talking about, we got to have the top draft pick, right? Let me tell you who are some of these quarterbacks that are actually out there and what is known to be a deep and strong quarterback class. You got Fernando Mendoza in Indiana. Look at these gaudy stats. 24 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, almost 2,000 yards. Dante Moore is a quarterback out of Oregon. He's also been very good for the top Ducks team. Lenoris Sellers is a guy in South Carolina who you need to look out for. He's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks. You see his 24 passing touchdowns, but also the 849 rushing yards, the rushing TDs. But then the guy I like best is Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson. Okay, Ty Simpson has thrown for over 2,100 yards, 20 touchdowns, only 1 interception. The other reason I really like him is his dad is actually the coach of UT Martin, has been for 20 years. His younger brother Graham is a big big time recruit. Like, this guy has it in his blood, and I think he is the best out of all of them. He is the one that I would pick, Ty Simpson, if we had the number one pick and if we were going quarterback, that kind of thing. Other names to include are John Mateer in Oklahoma, the one-time favorite for the Heisman, Garrett Nussmeier in LSU. You see his kind of stats for the first part of the season. Remember, LSU has, in fact, transitioned away from Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly doesn't even count guys who were high up at the beginning of the year, and kind of fallen off a little bit with their play in this college football season. Drew Aller in Penn State, Cade Klubnik in Clemson, Carson Beck, who was in Georgia, now down in Miami, obviously Arch Manning as well. So there's a lot of quarterbacks, but that means I'm trying to tell the people, if it goes south, maybe the next franchise quarterback is out there and he just plays on Saturdays, not on Sundays just yet. But the other thing I want to say is, like, we are still building something here. And it starts with the offensive line. It starts with some of this young talent. So we have the protection right short term. Hopefully we take advantage of it coaching with Fields. But if not long term, we've got it set, a building culture, a building defense, and improving young team that we can drop a quarterback onto. So if we don't have a game this week, that's what I want to do. Look forward to potentially the quarterbacks of the draft, but also look back and see how this has been built. And if you listen to Aaron Glenn and we kick out the penalties and the turnovers and we have that run game, these are elements that could be there. So even though there's no Jets game this week, there's still plenty to look forward to in the second half of the season. Really evaluating, I think, this young roster, this young defense. I think Aaron Glenn as a coach, and still with the open question on Justin Fields, who the door may have been shut a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of weeks too soon. But this is the way you look at it in a rebuild, and we are doing that. Let's see if we can clean up the mistakes in the second half of the season. Listen, that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. We do not have a game this weekend, so go maybe enjoy something else on a Sunday. But if you like fantasy football, if you like sports betting, I am the host of the FTN Fantasy Show, giving you help even if the Jets aren't playing, right? With fantasy sports, sports betting, so many great tools over at FTN Fantasy. I also want to talk about, mention what some of you guys had to say. Edward Evans, 4100, says nobody had the Jets beating the first 5 teams on the schedule. In fact, the games were Pittsburgh, Broncos. They had a chance against Pittsburgh. Saying that, like, we expected them to kind of be behind the 8 ball here. This guy had him at 2-5. But while Justin has played bad, so has the D. The play calling has been suspect. All this stuff, they're going to show who they are. And I think that's the right sentiment, that we are still going through this metamorphosis, evolution, tough times, which was supposed to be anticipated. Bird flu, KFC says, we need to keep Brees. Signed him to a 2 to 3 year deal. Another guy here, Michael Lipscomb, 6652, starts off with trading Brees would be a huge mistake, right? And so we'll see, right? I think this is a long game, and the question is, will Brees come back on a short deal, or will he look to get the bag somewhere, right? Like, I think Brees is a great back, but remember, they do have Braylon Allen. They do have Isaiah Davis. They do have this offensive line, which makes the run game go, maybe despite any individual back. And do they want to pay the premium when they have the other bodies in the backfield? I think that's what it's going to come down to. Listen, I would love to have Brees Hall. I would love him to be here. I would love for this entire team to grow together now that they have gone through these experiences, but we shall see. So no Jets game this week. Tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. I'll be back here next week, all week, getting you ready for the Cleveland Browns game, the trading deadline. We'll find out the answer on Brees. The Jets did make a move. We'll go through that and trying to find out how, if at all, this team, this organization is moving forward, is developing, is building. But that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. Have a great weekend, everybody. Even though there is no Jets game, we will still be here trying to figure out the green and white, all right? Have a great one. But for this episode, we out of here. Peace.